Good afternoon, good evening, folks. We're welcoming you to our Zoom live interactive plant sale. I see a couple of people have logged in. Thank you kindly for joining us today. Terrific. Hello, Dirk and Roma, longtime friends, Jeffrey, Jackie. We're here at the farm in person, looking at and thinking about the early spring plants. Still a good chill in the air, so I will welcome you all. I and my co-host, helper, Cindy Prentice, will welcome folks in.
Hi, everybody.
As we come in.
Ask questions in the chat.
And then there are 3 in the chat already. Is that what you just said?
No, ask questions. Any questions you have, ask them in the chat.
Great. And there are 3 already in the chat. So Eliza McPherson is here also helping and immensely helpful to look at questions and comments that come in. So it being 5 o'clock, I will honor your punctuality and thank you all for coming and joining us today. We are coming out with some room still to go of a pandemic, as you know, of a situation that makes it very hard to welcome people in person. And we love to welcome people in person, and we're trying to move back to that. So I'm John Belber. As I said, I'm joined by Cindy Prentice, director of the farm, and I am an education teacher here. And Liza, as I mentioned, is in the background handling some of our chat questions and comments as they come through. So this is live, so go ahead and type in a chat. There may also be a chance to raise your automatic icon finger with a question or a comment if you'd rather speak to us in person. So thank you all for joining us. It is a Wednesday afternoon, early evening, and we are surrounded by a whole bunch of wonderful early seedlings. And I'm going to emphasize early and say it many times today because in New England and in spring, we're now a month into spring, right? Today's not even a month, the 14th. So many plants are just getting going. And Sophia and Derek, our farm managers, and Amy and Aaron and Kayla, the farm helpers and crew, have been busy since February, right? February. Seeding, sowing the seeds, getting them on their way, protected in our hoop houses. And we have some early plant sale options this weekend where people have already registered for that online. So if you are not registered for that this weekend, we will have plants available later on April 22nd. April 22nd is a Thursday. As many of you may or may not know, Thursday is a big day for us. That's when we go live online with produce, and now plants are coming available, certainly on April 22nd. Seeds, amendments like compost and a perennial blend, amendments like hot pepper wax to keep away certain bugs, and Neptunes Harvest to amend naturally with good natural fertilizer our seedlings as we transplant them. So we're going to highlight today some of these early crops. And for those who are interested in tomatoes and eggplants and peppers and other fun-loving summer crops, we're going to ask you to wait until May. So the farmers have an even bigger plant sale in May where these vegetables and fruits are all available. We're going to work on sign-up times for those and be able to host more people. We're hosting them all very legally and safely, certain number of people per half-hour time slot. So that's our goal, is to welcome people back onto the farm, continue to educate and provide seedlings for them so they can take part in the growing. So let's see if we can feature a few of these, and we'll start sort of in this Brassica Hardy Green program here. So kale sampler, look at the different kinds of kale growing in a little 6-pack right there. Kale, cabbage, broccoli, wonderful hardy brassicas that are ready to go into the ground at this point. I'm going to share with you, just because I love doing this when I'm teaching with students and teaching with adults in the room right here, is to gently show the readiness of this plant with its stem and its leaves and its roots all around down there. And they are ready ready to go gently into the ground. So many of these plants, not all, and I'll tell you which ones, so many of these plants have been getting acclimated to the outdoors, getting used to what's growing outside with the weather changes. You know, we're calling for, or they're calling, whoever they are, calling for rain and wind, maybe tomorrow afternoon and Friday. That's hard for we human beings in springtime. It's hard for plants too. So we're trying to get most plants that we're selling this week and next outside and ready for the growing. Get them used to the wind that's blowing off the water. Get them used to the rise of temperature during the day and the cool at night when the sun sets. So that's called hardening off. And we want these plants to be ready to go into your garden if you've reserved a time slot or want to get some plants on the 22nd. Pak choy, I'm going to name some down here. Some sugar snap peas, sugar Ann, some lettuce, some spinach, Swiss chard. I'm going to pull out this tag right here. Some Swiss chard, okay? All good hardy greens. And they all have different lifespans, right? They've all been started by seed at different times in the greenhouses. But your lettuce head that you want to grow into a nice big head of lettuce might be 2 or 3 more weeks. The broccoli or the cabbage might take even many more weeks. You look at a tag right here. Sometimes the tags will tell you about spacing and how to transplant. So whether you're building 12 new garden beds out front of your house, or you have one garden bed to work on here, sometimes our tags hopefully will provide some spacing information so you know cabbage needs a whole foot between each plant because of the space that it needs. Liza will give me a heads up and alert if I need to look at the chat right there. I could also look at the chats there. Thank you, folks. Some flowers too. We're a flower, vegetable, and herb farm. So some hollyhock, and that says biennial. Biennial means it will flower every other year.
It completes its life cycle in 2 years. So
Yeah.
an annual is done the first year. It blooms and it's done. But a biennial completes its life cycle. The first year it may not bloom. The second year it will bloom. Drop its seeds into your soil, and then those become the new plants that will self-sow. And then the first year they just have the foliage, and the second year they bloom, and that's how they keep going. A biennial.
Perfect. And that way you don't have to buy new seeds next year.
That's right.
The seeds drop right down into the ground.
That's right.
We have some sweet pea flowers here. Now, sweet peas and sugar snap peas are both peas and yet very different. A sweet pea flower is so fragrant and smells so lovely, and please do not eat it. Please do not enjoy that pod. It is meant to grow into a beautiful flower, and it does. The sugar snap pea or the sugar Ann snap pea is delicious, snaps off the vine, tastes as sweet as sugar. Those grow into a pod, different type of plant, even though they're both in the legume pea family. What's another flower right here?
Yarrow.
Yarrow, good. I can almost go into the herb section as well. Yarrows, hardy perennials, and they will come back year after year if given the right space and mulching. They'll have to come back and join us in the fall when we talk about how to protect your perennials. Height, thank you, Cindy. On the tag, 28 to 30 inches high. That is a little over 2 feet, if my math is right, because that's going to get pretty tall, that yarrow with his beautiful purple flowers. You'll see a lot of what I call flowers in the pansy department, right?
Yes.
Violas and things, and I've seen them at garden centers where they're already blooming, having arrived maybe from out of state. These here, as with most all of our plants, started by seed. These violas do have edible flowers, and they are an annual, and they're nice, very pretty, usually mixed color, right? Purples and
That's right.
yellows. And another thing our informational tag says, besides our website with questions you can always ask, is blooms all season. So how great to have continual blooms on some annual plants there. Sun, part shade, more information. Likes mostly sun and a little bit of shade. Right now, in springtime, we're just seeing some trees begin to bud and leaf out, and they're not fully grown back yet. New England's going to take its time. So right now you have a little bit of a head start in terms of placing some of these plants in sunny spots because trees that might provide shade haven't formed yet. So Liza is alerting us to a chat. Should I go to chat or do you want to read?
Read it to you.
Wonderful.
What varieties of spinach do you have from Roma and Dirk? That we got a few weeks ago at the farm stand was rather sweeter that they prefer.
Oh.
And Dirk and Roba are making a nice connection to us, a nice segue in that I am imagining, and I know them to be wonderful shoppers at our Thursday produce online sale, store.hollyhillfarm.org, which is a wonderfully put together online shopping center that people go to on Thursdays at 10 a.m. until Fridays at 11 a.m. And we've been having produce all year round. So Dirk and Roma are talking about spinach they bought where the leaves have already been grown by the farmers and harvested and put in there. I'm not sure what variety they have growing in their field. I could ask the farmers that. They're milling about doing their wonderful seed work. This is a butterfly spinach. And let's go see, well, I'm going to ask you, Cindy, to see if there are other varieties of spinach that the farmers have started by seed. So butterfly is a nice sweet. You can see here, very densely packed. When you harvest spinach, if you have it on a porch in Quincy, or you have it anywhere growing, you harvest the big leaves one at a time, and that allows the smaller, younger leaves to grow up to size. So, wonderful plant here. We can find out from the farmers what varieties they're growing in the fields, because we still have those growing available on our store.hollyhillfarm.org, where we have harvested spinach. And here's the chance to grow some butterfly of your own. Excellent, Cindy. Good research. Space.
And this one is sun to part shade. Plant every 7 to 14 days for continual harvest. That's if you're seeding it.
Mm-hmm.
And they only need to space 2 inches apart. And let's see if we have another variety.
Fantastic.
Space.
And when Cindy mentions seeding it, so we are selling these transplants that you could transplant into your garden or yard or pot. We also sell seeds at the farm. So we are in contact with High Mowing Organic Seed, which is a farm in Vermont, High Mowing Farm. And they do a wonderful job of growing plants that produce wonderful seeds. And we're able to purchase some of those seed packets, carrots, radish, spinach, peas. I'm not positive about peas. Some herbs. All these seeds in their packets at $3 a packet are also available on that online service Thursdays at 10 a.m. If you're not getting those emails, it's a weekly constant contact. Please let us know. In fact, other plant sale questions can be answered throughout the next 40 to 50 days because as we move into May, we said more plants will be available. So that is plant sale at hollyhillfarm.org. And there are people here, we are human beings here, who look at our emails and answer those and give you the answers that you're looking for with regards to when can I sign up? When will the tomatoes be ready? How long will it take for the arugula to grow if I put the seeds in the ground? How long? Is it ready yet? Is it ready? So plant sale at hollyhillfarm.org. That's an email to ask questions and get clarity. Alliums. Alliums are make up the onion family. Here's a 6-pack of shallots in the allium family. Beautiful shallots. My mother preferred shallots to garlic. She felt they were a little less strong. So shallots are a great part of the onion family right there. Here they are, the conservors. They love sun. Spacing is 3 to 4 inches apart. And these might not be ready till fall, right? Shallots, leeks take a little bit longer to size up, right? You can imagine a shallot in a less than a fist size. And then leeks with their round tube right there, nice big thick leeks for potato leek soup come autumn. They take a little bit longer. Other more traditional, if you will, or medium sized yellow and purple onions, they're usually ready in July and they often will store very well. So if you're interested in planting onions, takes a little bit longer, but what a great result to be able to pick and enjoy your own fresh onions. Herbs. This entire discussion today could be about herbs and the reliability of herbs. And I'm going to start off with a few what I call hardy perennials. So we've talked about how there are biennials, and Cindy described how hollyhocks will drop their seeds for the next year, after the next year, and that other perennials, if you get them established in a pot that's protected or in the ground, if they're well mulched, they'll come back next year. So I am particularly fond of sage right here. Some wonderful hardy perennial sage. Grower's Friend is the variety name. Sun part shade, height 18 inches, just under 2 feet there, and spacing 16 inches apart. Now, as you plant perennials, and this is going to sound perhaps a little obvious, and you anticipate them coming back year after year, then where you put those perennials is going to be important, so that if you are going to want to plant other crops and you've got a perennial taking up that space there, then really think nice and hard about where you want to put those perennials. Very often, I know many chefs and cooks try to have their perennials right near the kitchen. If you have that good fortune to have a pot or a little space, people call it a kitchen garden, it's much easier to go out and clip a few sprigs of thyme, if you have the time, or some oregano, even lavender people have used in cooking. But all those perennials that could be used in your cooking or medicinal purposes closer to the house might make it a little bit easier. And then if you're outside with the garden beds, that might be more of a chance to rotate your crops, right?
Johnny, I have a question for you that some of our viewers may have. How deeply should any of these be planted?
Well, that does depend. And the card that we're reading right here, the tag, does not mention planting depth. So I think what I would suggest upon looking at the root structure of a plant is that's going to inform you as to right now how deep the root structure is going. That's maybe 2 inches, inch and a half right there. And this is a kale sampler, which requires 10 to 18 inches of spacing before the next one. So you have to measure that out. And the height's going to be pretty tall, 30 to 40 inches. So kale, and knowing too that kale is hardy, that kale goes almost all summer. If you pick it judiciously, it'll continue to leaf and may even come back next year. It sort of dies back as the winter takes hold in November, December. But right now, I was at a school garden in Weymouth today. Beautiful new kale leaves coming up after a harsh winter. So how deep your question is really deals with the spacing going to the right and left and all around it, but then making a nice little hole right down there for your kale, and maybe even a deeper hole.
And even as deep as it's growing now is what
Right.
I'm told.
Absolutely. And so that is a line there where you want your soil to be even with where the stem, thank you, emerges from the soil.
Right.
And that leads me to think about digging your hole, placing in your kale plant so it's even, or your broccoli or whatever it is. And maybe if it's a spot that would benefit, I would add some compost. I would add and mix in some nice, rich organic matter. So we have all kinds of compost here for sale too. We do love to feature, if you're not making compost at home and mixing and turning it, there is compost we have here. A lot of our, well, almost all of our compost mixes are from Vermont Compost. The Vermont Compost Company makes compost. They make a what's the higher end, the more nutrient rich compost? There's manure compost,
Compost Plus.
$12, and Compost Plus. That's a good name for it. So Compost Plus. Those two are going to add so much to your seedlings as you transplant them. And as you transplant, and we might think we're planning on a workshop, a hands-on workshop on the 24th of April. If you're thinking about transplanting and not sure how to do that, think about what a plant needs. It's going from its little confines, where the farmers have cared and loved for it so dearly, and now it's going outside and then into your garden or to a larger plot or pot at home. That may cause a little stress on the plants. Anytime one leaves one's home and goes to a new home, it could cause stress. believe me. So the plants are the same way. They need to really get as many supplemental nutrients as possible. Compost is sort of a very smart thing to add. And if you're planting into a garden bed, and maybe that garden bed was very busy last year growing tomatoes or something else, then maybe that soil is depleted. So anytime you can add more nutrients before transplanting, and even that one little hole I showed you about where the kale is going to go right to where the stems emerging, you want to make sure that you add as much compost, not as, to really enrich the hole, enrich the place where you're putting it.
And if I could mention, Johnny has this beautiful collection of lettuce here, different kinds of lettuce. One thing I learned working at the farm one morning when I saw after a very heavy frost, when all the lettuce was planted, it looked like the lettuce was dead. It was flat to the ground, and I thought it was all gone. Well, guess what? When that lettuce warmed up that next morning, it burst right back into full growth. There was no problem at all. So don't be concerned if some of your colder weather crops get a little tinge of frost. It's okay. They will survive it. If you put tomatoes or peppers in now, as Johnny mentioned, those are the warm weather crops. They don't like cold feet. They don't want to be in the cold soil.
Yeah, those roots would get too cold.
So these guys will recover beautifully. So don't worry if you see the temperature going below 32 after you've planted. These, as Johnny said, are hardened off. Some of the additional plants that Sophia and Derek will bring out of our greenhouses that have been protected, those have not been hardened off yet. So Sophia and Derek recommended that you put them outside the first couple of days in the shade so they get used to the temperature. Bring them into your garage or a sheltered space at night. So for a couple of days, that will harden them off, and then you can plant them. But these that are out here now, the ones that Johnny has mentioned to you, have all been hardened off.
Right. That's a very good point. A couple of the herbs just to mention. Dill, not yet been hardened off, but it will be hardened off if you choose to buy it. It's an annual, grows quite tall, beautiful dill if you're into making pickles or spicing up a dish. Chamomile, you tea makers. Lemon balm.
It spreads.
Catnip. George and Winnie, are you excited? I mentioned oregano there earlier. Mint. Now there's another hardy perennial. And what do you know about mint? Mint spreads. Mint is lovely for a cup of tea or on a bit of dairy-free, gluten-free ice cream. And mint is really lovely, and it spreads. So when I talk about a perennial being in one spot for year after year, mint will be in about 27 spots year after year. It really has runners that spread out and move. So pick a very separate space if you're going to plant mint, or a pot. Yeah, a pot, it can contain it. As Liza's pointing out, it does a nice job, and it runs out of real estate, and it's very happy being in a solid on the ground pot, resting on the ground. And more from Liza?
Yes, we have a question about radishes.
Excellent.
Can radish go outside right now, or should they be hardened off before planting? From Jackie.
Jackie, great question. So I have no radish plants here. And that is because radishes have delicious roots. And I love a good radish cherry bell French breakfast. And because it's a root crop, Jackie, we put those seeds, we farmers and gardeners, and you can too, put those seeds directly in the ground. We sprinkle them in. You could space them one at a time, giving about an inch or two, maybe 3 inches per radish seed to grow into a nice, slender or cherry bell size radish. And yes, they can go right in the ground right now. So radish seeds are available at store.hollyhillfarm.org. And that's Thursdays at 10 a.m. And that's a seed packet that we have plenty of for different radish seeds. Hey, Kristen. Nice to have folks on the farm here. Good question about radish. The seeds are available, and they can go right into the ground. And radish are quick. 28 days?
Very quick.
Very quick.
That's right.
28 days. That's great.
I
Cilantro.
Just mention one thing about mint that Johnny was talking about. I don't know if you can see this close
Can you
up.
smell it through the screen?
Oh, can smell it right through the screen. Mint has a square stem. So if you're
Oh, yeah.
wondering whether this plant could possibly be a mint, just feel very gently, feel that stem. And all mint plants have a square stem. It's kind of a fun little fact to share.
That's
Kids,
exactly,
kids
yeah.
love to know that, and so do
Terrific.
grown-ups.
Yeah. We got two similar looking herbs over here, very hardy and quick and lovely. Cilantro and parsley. Different, yet similar in appearance. Parsley can be curly and parsley can be flat. I think we focus on the flat leaf parsley here. And that's wonderful, can grow all summer long. And then also a biennial. Yep, also a biennial comes back next year, as Cindy mentioned. And cilantro, particular taste for some who love it and some who do not love it. Great to add for cooking and spice.
And cilantro will self-sow. So if you
Ah.
let it go to seed, maybe you're not paying attention to the entire batch of what you have, the rows and so forth. If it goes to seed, which is then coriander, so
Mhm.
cilantro seeds are called coriander, they will drop into your garden. And I noticed this year when Liza and I were preparing our garden beds, we saw a lot of cilantro that wintered over as seeds and are now sprouting in our garden. So we happen to like cilantro. Some people feel it tastes like soap. So that's, I think we hear that's sort of a genetic thing that if you taste
Yep,
it, it's
my
like
mother
soap.
thought it. I do not.
Yeah,
Yep.
Jean White here at the farm tastes like soap. So um, anyway, that's it
Proceed,
about cilantro.
proceed at your own risk.
That's it.
It's as I said, delightful for some, and less so for others. Um, Gardening and growing and thinking about all these different plants that you could work with and seeds that you can work with. It does take a lot of planning, and these informations on the cards about spacing. Try to follow those, because when it says, you know, 15 inches for a kale plant, it means that. It means it's really, the farmers have studied this and they know it in terms of how to get the best success and the best growth. Because even though the plants look small when you transplant them into your garden or your pot, these plants will grow. That's what they're designed to do. They're going to be happy to move into your homes as you consider how best to plant. And again, these are early season crops, so then they will yield, and you'll have time later on in the season. Oh, I can put tomatoes in after the frost, which is really often Memorial Day is an old tale where people really believe that the last chance here for us to have um, a frost below 30 degrees, the city said, could be late May. So that's why those are protected in the greenhouse and they're not for sale just yet. Hang in there, even though we're so excited about a summer tomato. We're really trying to expand our early season crops here. And folks are hopefully excited, as you are all, about joining. Liza has more.
A helpful note from Roma and Dirk: the green seeds of cilantro taste very good, harvested before they go brown and dry.
Excellent.
Ah.
So if they do, as Cindy said, if you do miss a patch and the cilantro is going to seed, get them while they're green, to have beautiful green cilantro tasting seeds. It's a
Good
wonderful,
point.
busy time on the farm. We have kids on the farm doing programs. We have programs happening during vacation week. There are programs happening after school. I've been teaching in schools. We have different activities on the farm. Do check out our website to stay current on what is happening here on these cool spring days with lots of plants ready.
You might want to mention about being a member
Oh,
and coming
yes.
to the member hours, John.
Yes. So that's for May.
May's plan.
We honor, one of the ways we honor our members. We're a member supported organization, people powered here, that members really do help us a lot. And we have a members only plant sale. So when we talk about welcoming back people in person, we'll be doing that. And we do it a little bit earlier for our members. So it's an annual membership, and there's information about that on our website. And it starts at 45 for an individual that we ask, and 75,
50 for
50 for an individual,
Yep.
and 75 for a family. And that provides information for you all year, discounts on workshops, and attendance to our in-person. We're so glad to be back in person. We're doing it safely and carefully at a distance.
Yep.
So people can come and shop and see which plants they really want to commit to and work with. And I think I have information about a coupon for our store.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
store.hollyhillfarm.org, I've mentioned, is our wonderful online Shopify that happens every Thursday at 10 a.m. And people can order greens, they can order coffee beans, they can order grains and potatoes and other items the farmers have sourced, and greens and plants that we've grown all year. For you folks attending today, we would like to invite you to use a code SPRING. I'm going to say that one more time. SPRING will be the code to type in so you can get a discount for coming and joining with us. If you're not already shopping with us, use that one-time code to come join us.
That's right.
Maybe even starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you're watching us on Zoom here. Liza also mentioned to me earlier, a wonderful tech and teacher, Liza McPherson, mentioned that this is being recorded. The revolution is being filmed. And folks who want to find information that Cindy and I are sharing can access this. Perhaps to the question, plantsale@hollyhillfarm.org.
Yes.
They can email us to find out how to replay over and over again this stimulating workshop.
I just wanted to pop in. Hi, everybody, for a moment, because I have a fun fact about catnip, the plant, for any cat lovers or cat owners out there. As a cat lover and cat owner here, I would recommend that you get multiple perfect, thank you.
Multiple cats?
Multiple cats and also multiple catnips, one for each cat, maybe two, because your cat's instinct, if you've never had an actual plant of catnip around them, maybe you've just gotten dried stuff from the store, they will want to roll in it. They will want to roll their whole body on it. It does not matter if it is a plant on a pot inside, because it's part of the mint family, or if it is out in your garden, they will destroy it. But it's not their fault, because according to NPR, they did some tests and found that it actually provides some insect repellent to cats. If they roll around in it and crush it, the oils can provide some degree of protection for them. So not only is it giving them a little bit of a fun buzz, but it's also preventing them from getting bitten by mosquitoes. But it does not work on people. They would have.
Too bad.
I would have tried. Yes.
Good. And it's good they're not driving if it's just a little buzz. That's
Right.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So they have two cats, that family there, and speaking from experience, so how great to make the cats happy as well. And that's also, is it a perennial, I think?
Yes.
Yes. Catnip a perennial. And I see a tag here, started 313 there. So that's terrific. I mean, that was up potted. So lots of plants here. And again, we have signups already sold out this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, the 17th, 18th. And more plants available next week. So 4/22 is next Thursday. More plants will be available at our store.hollyhillfarm.org. Forgive the repetition and my repeating. However, that's a time when more plants will be available online if you have missed out on this weekend, and on through May. As it gets warmer, more plants available.
So here's a question that you might wonder about. This is a 6-pack, as Johnny showed you, of shallots. And you can probably see when I tip it forward, maybe, that in some of these little cells, there's more than one plant in that cell. So Johnny, as a good teacher, what would you recommend? How would somebody handle that? Would they plant that one cell of 3 shallots, or what's a better idea?
Well, I'm going to look at the tag, and it says spacing 3 to 4 inches. So for starters, Derek and Sophia, Amy and Aaron, and a little bit of Kayla have put 3 seeds in here, and all 3 have grown. Or maybe they put 4 in and 3 have grown. So with the spacing being 3 or 4 inches, then gently, you need to tease apart. This is when teasing is okay. Tease apart the shallot to put that shallot in the ground. Then do your measurement of 3 to 4 inches and put the next one, and repeat to put the next one. So even though 3 are together, it's a great observation, Cindy, they need to be spaced out. 3 inches, not 3 feet.
And it may seem a little harsh to do this, but if you take your fingers and just really move it down the whole 2 inches of this soil and gently pull that back, if it's wet, if you've kept it moist, which you need to do before planting, keep your plants moist, it will pull apart very easily without any damage. Johnny, speaking of watering and the fact that southeastern Mass is currently in a drought.
That's true.
Do you recommend any kind of mulching or grass, or what do you recommend to folks to try to save? I know one ingredient that you would recommend that Janice would.
Yeah, definitely the compost.
Compost helps keep the moisture in.
Keeps the moisture and holds on and retains that water. So if you're putting compost in upon transplanting, that's going to be terrific for the next time it does rain, or more likely, every time you transplant with some compost, go ahead and give it a nice deep watering, because the compost will hold onto it. The roots will be so happy. As I said, of the possible stress moving from one place to another, adding that water is going to fortify. And think about those roots over the next 24, 48 hours. If there's not rain right there, at least they'll have a water source right there for when they are needing it. Onions, I suppose you could mulch, because I did mention they're in the ground for a long time. So as you plant them there, you could put down some straw, not hay. You could put down some leaves around them. I know we put seaweed down on the garlic. I'm not sure if seaweed's available on the beach right now.
Grass clippings, if you don't fertilize your lawn with bad things.
Terrific. So grass clippings, exactly, is a terrific thing to put down. If you have garden boxes and your lawn there and you're mowing the lawn or clipping the lawn, then definitely put those grass clippings down, because what the mulch is doing, that Cindy's indicating, right, is that it's helping to hold that moisture in where the roots are, where the soil needs it.
Now with seeds, that's a different story, because
Yeah.
the seeds are much shallower, and if they have a chance to get really dry, they may not grow.
Right.
So you want to make sure that wherever you've planted seeds has some moisture in that soil to continue the germination process of the seed.
Yes, and the seeds are just further behind, right? Your plants are more established. They're able to extract and pull up more nutrients because of their root system. Seeds are just beginning. That's why a careful attention to watering is really important.
You also may wonder how the farmers get all of these plants to be so beautiful this time of year. Well, they started, as Johnny said, in February, and they have special techniques that they use in the greenhouse. There's a germination chamber that has warmth that accelerates the germination. Of course, everything's grown organically in organic soil. We want you to be sure of that.
Absolutely.
So these plants are very different than what you would get at a lot of other nurseries or garden centers, because to my knowledge, there aren't a lot of organic plant sales around.
Right. And I've been hearing about new native seedlings growing here too. And we know some farmers, our former farm manager, Jasmine Callahan, and her buddies are growing some native seedlings from seeds, often saved seed. And they're looking to provide some resources of native seedling plants for us later in May.
And those native seedlings, as you might know, and frankly, I'm just learning a lot about this from Jasmine. As a lifelong gardener, I didn't really know a lot about native plants, but the important thing is about native pollinators. So the pollinators, some of them require a very specific plant to be able to live. And if we don't provide those plants, those pollinators will die, and vice versa. The plants will die if we don't have the native plant pollinators. So that's an initiative that Jasmine, as Johnny mentioned, is doing here on the farm. So you might want to become involved in either volunteering with Jasmine.
Yeah, she has a conservation stewardship program that is already welcoming teenagers and adults to work on converting a dormant farm field into a native meadow. We're working with Dr. Jagier. Many of us have the fortune to work with Dr. Jagier, who's a bumblebee expert, and he's been able to help guide us and figure out what it is we need to plant and how we can care for our seedlings. So we're working on curriculum with that to teach high schoolers. So there's a lot still for us to learn.
That's right.
Quick note from Dirk and Roma, who say that they got 38 scallions out of 1 6-pack, and they kept going until March.
Oh, good one,
Great.
Dirk
Now,
and
scallions
Roma.
I call very thin onions. So
That's it.
scallions are terrific, and there are many planted in a 6-pack there. And that's a great bit of information, Dirk and Roma.
Excellent.
Longtime customers, dear friends, and marvelous growers on a very small patch in Quincy. Great work, Dirk and Roma. A lot of scallions out of a 1 6-pack.
1 6-pack. So that's great. Good to know.
Good for chopping out a salad.
Never trust a guy who's wearing shorts like that. That's all wrong.
We're in a live Zoom.
We have visitors coming by, our friends saying hello.
We love walkers coming
dogs.
through the farm dawn to dusk. It's very terrific.
That's right.
So Liza's been monitoring our chats. This has been recorded. We're getting ready to wrap up. If folks have any closing, right? Thoughts or comments, it's great to have you join us. We'd like to have workshops in person. We'd like to have workshops by Zoom. We thought about doing a Facebook, ways that we can reach people. There's a newsletter for members we send out. That's another way to get a newsletter and read it in fine print. So we love interacting with folks any way we can, especially during a pandemic.
And we do require when you come to the farm, please wear your mask, even though several of us have been double vaccinated already.
Fortune?
We are fortunate, and we're making sure that we are safe to keep you safe,
Right.
whether you're a small child that's coming to a program or not a small child that's coming to a program. So
An older child.
and I will tell you, now this is kind of a secret. It's brand new today, but you don't mind if I share it with you, okay? We have a new bunny on the farm, and her name is Bunzilla. And she is a Flemish rabbit that gets like this big. So come visit us, see our animals. We have chickens, we have a rescue donkey named Benji, we have 3 goats, Pumpkin the pony, who's 30 years old.
Yep.
All here that are ready to greet you when you come and visit. So we'd love to see you. on
That's
the farm.
terrific. Thank you, folks. Early spring plant sale is happening this weekend. We hope you were able to sign up. If not, please know we'll have plants available April 22nd, a Thursday. That's when our constant contact comes out, store.hollyhillfarm.org. More plants. The farmers are working till late in the evening, having been up since early in the morning to make sure we continue to work with the weather and the increased warmth to grow seedlings that are ready for your home and for our farm fields.
That's right.
And we're delighted to have you guys join us. And please, any questions, plant sale at hollyhillfarm.org. Thank you, Liza, for tech. Cindy, great to talk with you.
Thank you, Johnny.
And folks.
Thank all of you. We appreciate you being here with us today.
All right.
Take good care.